Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to bring you my top 10 worst movies of 2018. Now, I've seen about 100 movies this year, and for the most part, I was quite impressed with what I've got. But then, there were the movies that were just so bad they defied expectations. Now, last year, I kind of struggled to make a top 10 worst movies because, for the most part, there were quite a lot of good movies that I saw, and the ones that were kind of forgettable, they weren't really that bad that they could have got into a top 10 worst list. But this year, I had plenty of movies to choose from. So much so that I could have made a top 15 or a top 20 list. So first, just a little bit of a clarification. You may actually see some movies that were released back in 2017 on this list. The reason that is because that I go by UK release date, so if it was released in the UK this year, then it will qualify for my list. So also, just to clarify, these aren't the worst movies based on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, or generally the most hated movies. This is my own personal list, so, it is my opinion. So, don't get too mad if you see a movie on here that you really liked. This is, as I say, my opinion and my list. But, if you liked it, or if you hated it and agree with me, then, let me know in the comments. So now, with that out of the way, let's get started with the top 10 worst movies of 2018. Number 10. So, kicking off my list, we have A Wrinkle in Time. Now, the main reason I went to go see this movie was because I was seeing 3 other movies on that day, and I really just wanted something else to make up the numbers because I thought, hey, I'm going to the cinema, I might as well get in as many movies as I can. And, I thought that the story probably wasn't going to be there, but at least the visuals would have been nice. It might have taken me back to the first time I saw Avatar. But, unfortunately, this couldn't be further from the truth. While the visuals were okay, they certainly weren't terrible. The story was definitely worse than I thought it was going to be. They just kind of seemed to bumble from set piece to set piece thinking, ooh, maybe we can get all these set pieces on a ride at Disneyland or something like that. I mean, as well, the characters were obnoxious, a lot of the acting was really poor, and overall this was just such a disappointing movie. Even though I wasn't really expecting it to be all that good, it just left me with this feeling of just... why did I even go and see that? Number 9. Now, this next movie got me quite a lot of slack at work. I mean, I told people that I didn't like this movie, and a lot of people at work just thought I was crazy for not liking it. But, ultimately, I just liked having the discussion with people about why I didn't like this movie. And the movie I'm talking about is The Equalizer 2. Now, I didn't think much of the first Equalizer movie. In fact, really, I only watched it just so I could really watch this movie. Now, I've said this a lot on my channel, and I'll say it again now. Why is it that in a world where we have John Wick, do we accept mediocre movies like this? Now, don't get me wrong, Denzel Washington is certainly a great actor, and, his performance in this is definitely passable. But the main thing I take issue with is the action in this movie. It's just so unwatchable, it's just unrealistic. I mean, I guess the main reason they shoot it this way is because the actor cannot do a lot of the stunts that they're supposed to be doing. And that brings me to my main point. Why are you getting an actor to be an action star when he can't do any of the stunts? I mean, I understand that stunt work is really hard, and a lot of stunts that the actors can't do is because, they're not expendable, and the reason that stunt actors exist is because they're a little bit more expendable and they can do a lot more of the dangerous stunts. But I mean, the stunts in this movie are just so basic that really anyone could have done it. I mean, I thought that in 2018 we've grown out of the whole quick cut, shaky camera thing, but I guess with The Equalizer 2, this is definitely not the case. But actually, I tell you what, I will actually give the movie one thing that I actually didn't know. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where Denzel Washington's character is getting chased by one of the main bad guy's goons. He then goes into a bakery to try and hide, and then he starts cutting open bags of flour and turning fans on. Now, what I thought he was doing, I thought he was trying to create like a mist or a distraction or something. But the next thing I definitely didn't see coming, because one of the bad guys throws a frag grenade into the building, and the whole building just explodes in this massive explosion. And just before this happened, one of my friends actually leant in and said, oh, I bet this whole building's going to explode. And I just looked and I thought, nah, what are you talking about? Like, why would the building explode? And the reason this happened is because flour is very, very combustible, which, to the movie's credit, I actually didn't know. So, good job, movie, for teaching me that. But that does not give you a pass from getting on this list. Number 8. Now, there are some actors who can just pretty much keep going till they get to their 60s, 70s, or even 80s. But then you get these bunch of actors who you would really wish would retire. You get that one singular movie where you just wish, man, you should just really give up because you've just lost it. There's just nothing more you can give to us. And that movie for me was King of Thieves. Now again, this was a movie I wasn't really expecting much from, But, I thought that, this collaboration of actors would certainly be entertaining to watch and would definitely get me through the movie. Because, you have Michael Caine, Ray Winstone, Charlie Cox, a bunch of these really good actors, but, oh my god, they were just so unwatchable on screen. You get some older actors that can still do a lot of badass things and be, really awesome on screen, but then you get this lot who are just so hilariously unintimidating that this movie just pretty much turns into a straight-up comedy. Now, I know this movie probably does label itself as a comedy as well, but these particular parts were, I guess, not meant to be taken funny. You got these guys getting in each other's faces with their Cockney accents like, oh, I'm gonna do you, and everything like that. But then you got them in the next scene just like, oh no, I think I just pissed myself. It's just a lot of just terrible things like that. Other than these just uninteresting characters, the movie's boring and it's really terribly paced. And towards the halfway point, or probably even before that, I was really wishing this movie would just end. Number 7. The Oscars, a time to celebrate the best movies of a particular year. Now, more often than not, the Oscars do get it right and they do present the best movies of a particular year. But with this movie, I'm just really shocked as to why it got nominated for anything. This movie got nominated for 6 Oscars, and there was only really one that I could honestly see why it would even get nominated for. And it did win this award, and I wasn't too disappointed because, it was in Best Costume Design. But literally everything else, it just did not deserve in the slightest. And actually, it felt like a crime that it was even nominated for these things because there were such better performances out there that really just deserve the Oscar. The movie I'm talking about is Phantom Thread. Now, again, this was a movie I really didn't think I'd probably enjoy, but I really wanted to give it a chance because it was pretty much Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie. So, I thought, you know what, Daniel Day-Lewis's last performance, he's pretty much really going to give it his all, I imagine, go out of a bang. But my god, this movie, oh god. The performances in this movie were just so ridiculously dry and boring. I guess it's how they were supposed to be doing it, but there was just nothing to them. And like I said in my review, this movie was one music change away from being a straight-up horror. There's a scene in the movie where the 2 lead characters first meet up. And, he's sitting there eating his dinner and she's his waitress. And, he gives her his order. And then he says to her, oh, do you think you could remember it without the list? And she says to him, yeah, I think I could. And he takes it off her. And he's like, I'm going to keep this now. And I was just sitting there like, have I just walked into a horror movie because this is just horrendous? But then the movie just keeps going and going. The acting gets no better. It just stays stagnant and just completely dry. But then the ending comes and you think, oh, maybe something interesting might happen here. But then this ending was just so insufferable as well. And it just added to this whole insufferable movie. So, just to do a little bit of a recap on this movie. Awful. Number 6. Now, this next movie was definitely one of the more recent movies that I saw this year, as I pretty much only saw it like 1 or 2 weeks ago. And sometimes I try and go into a movie without finding anything about it. All I knew about this movie was its title and who was starring in it. So, with that, I had no real expectations for it, but it was just amazing to see that with no expectations, they were immediately thrashed in the first couple of minutes. The movie I'm talking about is The Old Man and the Gun. Now, I don't really know much about Robert Redford, like I said in my review, but if this is an example of his finer work, then I have no idea how this guy's lasted as long as he has. I should have taken the hint that this was going to be a bad movie when I saw that Casey Affleck was in it. Because, again, like I said in my review, I don't think I've seen him do anything good. Even his Oscar-winning performance in Manchester by the Sea. Actually, I better stop myself because I'm going to go into another Casey Affleck rant. So, I'll just sum up my feelings of Casey Affleck. This movie was presented awfully. The acting was terrible. Everything about this movie just offered nothing. This movie was just so poorly thought out. And then when the ending came, the best part about the movie was seeing the credits roll and knowing that I could just leave this movie now. Number 5. There are some people out there that we don't like. There are some people that we really do like. But then you get these certain people who you really kind of just jump on a bandwagon because you don't really know much about them. But, it's just fun to be a part of the conversation. Now, with this person, I've jumped on the bandwagon for years. I've really been slating them, saying why they're crap. But, I've never really actually seen anything that they've done. So I thought, you know what, I'll go watch their movie and see what all the fuss is about, see why this person's so despised. And with this movie, I can definitely see why so many people hate this person. The movie I'm talking about is I Feel Pretty. Now, I really should have just listened to my instinct with this movie and just really not have gone and seen it. But, you know, like I said, you know, I thought I'd just make my own opinion of her. You know, I thought, oh, Amy Schumer can't be that bad. So many people can't be that right about her. But, you know, I was proven completely wrong because Amy Schumer is just so ridiculously unbearable. She's painfully unfunny, and her character in this has just nothing going for her. Not in the sense of the story narrative, but just in the sense of that her character trying to send a message does the complete opposite. Because, you know, throughout she's trying to say, oh, you know, you don't need to be beautiful to be happy. You can love yourself for your inner beauty. But, you know, she starts off feeling, you know, completely unconfident. Then she takes a bash to the head, and then she's got all the confidence in the world. But then she quickly turns into the people that she pretty much detests. She gets really snobbish, she gets really rude, and she just becomes completely unlikable. You know, I appreciate the message of feeling confident in your own skin, but if you're using this movie to try and push that message forward, then, you know, you really should just use a different movie. Number 4. Now, normally, I do like movies where they give you a bit of information about something that's happened in the past. And, you know, I'm not the biggest history buff, so more often than not, I end up finding out about these things through movies. But really, this movie has killed off any interest about me finding out about this particular situation, even though it's still going on to this day, and, well, you know, it's a very, very important issue. But still, it's killed off pretty much all my desire to find out anything about it. And that movie is Entebbe, or 7 Days in Entebbe, depending on where you saw it. I just don't really know how you could get a movie like this so wrong. I mean, this movie has really nothing going for it, except for, like, say, its cast. Because, you know, it has 2 really good actors in Daniel Bruhl and Rosamund Pike. But, you know, just this movie's pace is just all over the place. They're constantly jumping backwards and forwards in time. It's just an absolute slow burner. And the most insulting part about this movie is the fact that they have this dance sequence going on throughout the movie where they cut back and to from it, you know, all the time. And it serves no point to the movie. I mean, I heard apparently it's supposed to be some kind of parallel between art and war, or something pretentious like that. But all it served to do in this movie was just extend the length of the movie. And like I said in my review, it just adds insult to injury when during the credits, it just shows more of this dance sequence. So you're sitting there thinking, oh, maybe they might show something else about it. But no, all they show is just the dance sequence again. I mean, really, I should have taken it as a bad sign that when a movie gets pushed back a month because of reshoots and all kind of stuff like that. But, you know, I went to go see it anyway, and you know what? I just wonder why I went to go see it in the first place. Number 3. This next movie definitely was one of the more divisive movies of my reviews. I mean, I don't really get that many views or likes, but normally if I do, it's probably more in the, like, high 80s, 90s, or sometimes, you know, get 100% likes because, you know, there's only usually one or something like that. But this movie has and actually it's the only one that has a direct 50-50 like to dislike, and that movie is Ghost Stories. I mean, to this day, I've been saying to people, I need people to go see this movie and tell me why it's good. Because I'm just completely lost. I mean, there is some good imagery, and the cast are decent. I mean, you know, like with the likes of Martin Freeman. But I just thought this movie was just so insufferable. I mean, at the start, you know, it lays itself out to try and be like, oh, it's going to debunk all these ghost stories that seem undebunkable. But it doesn't even do that. I mean, like, after the first 2 out of the 3, the guy just says, oh, the guy's crazy, or the other guy's crazy. And I'm just there like, that is such a lame explanation. And it just calls into question about why this guy is a master debunker. But then in the last ghost story, it just goes completely off the rails, and I'm thinking, oh, man, how's he going to explain this one? This one's going to be good. And then it just doesn't even do that, and it just goes completely crazy, and it just misses the mark on every level. I mean, like I say, maybe this movie is good, maybe it just takes a bit of an explanation as to why it's good, but realistically, if someone has to explain to me why a movie's good, then really, then the movie's just missing the mark, and it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, I understand having your own interpretation of a movie, but my interpretation of this movie was that it was just completely awful. Number 2. So now, we reach the penultimate movie, and, well, this movie, I wasn't really expecting much from it. I saw the stars and I thought, you know, I'll give it a chance. It's labelling itself as a comedy. I might have a couple of laughs. But to label this movie a comedy, I think you have to be absolutely insane because there's really not much funny about it. The movie I'm talking about is Mom and Dad. I mean, I should have known from the cast. I mean, having Nicolas Cage in a movie is just always a sign that the movie's just going to be terrible. The main thing that makes this movie so bad is just with its well, actually, it's just everything about this movie is just bad. This is a movie where I actually said to parents that they should not go see it because I imagine it would just offend them deeply. I mean, I even got offended by this movie and I don't even have kids. Now, for those of you who don't know what this movie is, and I'm not being vague when I say this, but something happens, literally just something, and then the parents want to and do murder their children. And it's not like, oh, this stuff happens off screen or it's done in a kind of clever comedic way. No, it's just brutal. You got people drowning their like 3-year-old kids. You got them suffocating them. You got them stabbing them. And I'm just there thinking, where are the laughs in this movie? This movie is just horrific. And I was thinking, oh, maybe there might be some good explanation as to why this happened. Maybe it might be just, you know, some kind of big experiment. But no, the movie just doesn't explain anything and you're just left with this feeling of just, what have I just watched? This was just horrific. So, just before we get to number one, I want to mention some honourable, or in this case, dishonourable mentions. So, just before we get to number one, enjoy these dishonourable mentions.
Does the name Helen Baxter ring a bell?
It does more than ring a bell. She was like a dick whisperer.
She's our mom.
All we did was cut her.
Is Phil in?
He's servicing a client.
Is that what I think it is?
What do you think it is?
But she is something quite different. She is beautiful and strange and very, very rare.
Things are gonna start to get better for you. Trust me, I have good instincts.
Let's go.
To the schooner! Hooray! All right, I'm going as fast as I can. You're making me nervous! Seatbelts, everyone.
Number one. And so, here it is, guys. The worst movie of 2018, in my opinion. The reason I have to state my opinion is because I've talked to a lot of people about this movie, and there are some people like me who absolutely hate this movie, but then I talked to other people who absolutely love this movie and thought it was a masterpiece. But me, I cannot understand why anyone would think this movie is a masterpiece. The number one terrible worst movie of 2018 for me is Hereditary. Now, this movie, oh god. You know, I saw in the trailers that they were saying, you know, it's the best thing since The Exorcist, and, well, you know, like, little disclaimer, I haven't actually seen The Exorcist, but I know enough about The Exorcist to think that why would you even say that this movie's anywhere close to The Exorcist? I mean, not only was I just bored with this movie, but I felt myself getting just mad and frustrated with this movie. But, you know, like I said in my review, I do applaud the fact that it doesn't have any jump scares, because I think jump scares in movies are just so completely lame and just completely just done to death at this point. So, you know, it was at least nice to see a movie try something different, but it's just such a shame that the movie that tried it was absolutely terrible. I mean, I can just imagine the person who wrote this movie just sitting there thinking, yes, I'm so clever, everyone will love my masterpiece, it's gonna be so great. But I mean, when this movie actually came to an end, with its just bizarro, like, unexplained, just ass ending, and then they just play this kind of, like, upbeat, somewhat upbeat pop song, and I'm just sitting there like, you know, actually, I was actually happy by the end because, you know, it was over, and I didn't have to sit through it ever again. Let me put it to you this way, if I had to choose between watching the other 9 movies on this list, in order, one after another, straight after each other, or watch this movie again, I would choose those 9 movies in a heartbeat. This movie was just god-awful. And for that reason, it is the number one worst movie of 2018, in my opinion. Okay guys, that was my top 10 worst movies of 2018. Do you agree? Do you disagree? If so, you know, let me know in the comments. So my next video will be the big one, the top 10 movies of 2018. The movies, in my opinion, which were my favourite and I thought, you know, just the best movies of 2018. So, you know, if you're interested in seeing that, stick around. And until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!